I remember the one in Manaus, though, against Portugal. You're literally in the middle of Amazon. And so I remember, like, the walls were white, the tunnels where we walk out were white, but they were actually black because of the amount of mosquitoes and moths and flies and everything that was against. So you could not see white. It was just black because of all that. It was just incredible.
Hello and welcome to the US Soccer Podcast. My name is David Goss, and this is the show where every week we bring you in-depth interviews with US soccer stars, the past, present, and future. And I'm lucky enough to be joined by two of those stars in their own right. My co-hosts, Alejandro Bedoya and Meghan Klingenberg. You guys hung out without me. How you doing?
We had a great time. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I guess we did miss you a little bit, but I have to agree with Kling. We had a great time, and it was a great weekend in Philly.
It sounds like Kling was actually happier that you were without me. Like, you were quick to answer that one, Kling. Well, of course, this episode is that hangout, so at least I get to experience it as a third party. You guys sat down in front of a live audience at Subaru Park, your home, Ale, and the home, of course, of the Philadelphia Union, and the location of the U.S. men's national team. Kling, before we get into it, give me a little bit of an idea. What are we in for?
Well, it was such a fun time. I got to write Ale's introduction to the show all myself and poured my soul into it. Yes. I really hope that Ale felt like it was a special one because it felt good. But we talked about everything from Ale's time going to Sweden in his first club, Swedish pastries. We even talked a little Swedish. We talked his traumatizing experience with Scottish food. Sorry to all of our Scottish friends. Honestly, I tried to stay out of that one as best I could. And then finally, we got to his men's national team career and talked about his time in Europe with Rangers and memories of the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. But overall, it was just fun, and it's always incredible to have a live crowd because they bring so much energy and you get to actually see people react to the stories that Ale was telling, and they were really, really into it, and we had such a blast.
Ale, just so I'm aware, because we've already done an episode at the United Nations, how many nations did you guys offend in this podcast? How worried do I have to be about travel?
We're going back to the UN. We need to smooth things over.
Yeah, no, I think it was great. I have to give credit to Kling as well. That intro was definitely the best I probably ever gotten, the way she introduced me. So credit to her and her writing and the time she spent on that. We covered a wide range of topics. We both actually played in Sweden, so we talked a lot about Sweden, our time out in Scandinavia. Some Scottish food was in there, a little bit about my journey and career growing up as a player. It was nice to have a live audience in place. Like Kling said, the participation from them was awesome. We got some Paraguay fans sneak in there as well. So it was nice to touch on some South American kind of topics, obviously being a Colombian American. So yeah, it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. The crowd was great, and yeah, capped off a great weekend.
All right, well, this is enough. I got to hear this intro now, so let's just get into it.
Hello and welcome to the US Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, Meghan Klingenberg, and we're coming to you live at Subaru Park, home of the Philadelphia Union. What's up, Philly? How we doing? Nice. So happy to be here, and I'm honored to introduce a man who feels like he's been on the Philadelphia Union since before the Liberty Bell cracked, who covers ground like he's still on his rookie contract, who willingly signed up to do this podcast with me. Proof that he fears absolutely nothing. One of the most capped players in Philadelphia Union history, played all 4 games of the U.S. men's national team campaign in Brazil in the 2014 World Cup. The voice in the locker room, the heartbeat on the field. Let's give it up for the one and only Ale Bedoya.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. That was a heck of an intro, man.
Yeah, of course. You deserve a good intro, man. All right, and before we start, I just want to make a note that I'm sure everybody knows that they have a red card on their chair. Super excited to get into this. but I will explain a little bit later in the show how we're going to use them. Until then, please restrain yourself from red carding any of my questions that you don't like, okay? You will get your chance to play in this game a little bit later, but first we're going to start with Ale and his career. So let's get into it. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Ale. You grew up in a family where your dad and your grandfather both played professionally. What was it like growing up in a household where soccer was kind of the family business?
Yeah, absolutely. So both like my grandfather and father played professionally in Colombia. I don't know if we have any Colombians here. And so I just grew up in a soccer household, right? We actually had my grandparents living with us in our home as a child growing up. And so, whether it was through the radio with my grandfather just on the couch listening to the games from Colombia or other Argentinian leagues elsewhere in South America, or my father we had, don't tell anybody, we had a black box, on our TV back then, so we could secretly watch all the games from everywhere. In the 90s growing up, like the Italian league was very strong, right, in Italy, so we would watch a lot of those games, and there was a lot of Colombian players that were playing abroad in Italy. And so I just grew up in a soccer household, so it was something that I just knew very passionately, and I grew to love. And both my grandfather and father, as a kid growing up, they were always the ones that were willing to do extra work with me whenever I was outside of playing for the local club teams that I was playing at. I grew up first in New Jersey, in North Jersey, in Bergen County, before I moved down to South Florida. But yeah, they were the guys that really drove my love for the sport, truly, just being able to, whether it was outside practicing in the backyard or at the local fields, or just sitting with them at home, watching games with them.
So what did you learn from them? And is there anything that you learned as a kid that you took and modeled into your game that you still use now as a pro?
Yeah, my dad really taught me everything, really. He was a aspiring striker. He was more of a striker. He was very fast, very quick, and but everything that he did, and I kind of try to model after his game. And he taught me everything of how to be a midfielder. He was the guy that he traveled a lot, but when he was home, we would go out on a track, do some extra work, because he felt like that I had an ability to run more than other guys, right, and to build up my stamina and endurance, and knowing that what was going to take me far would gain an extra edge. And so my grandfather, while he could, he was a goalie when he played professionally. He would stand in the net. Obviously, he couldn't move very well at some points, but at least I used him, he would stand in certain areas, like just even standing like this by the net. I don't know if you guys ever do that, and I'd have to try to aim for the corners and finishing drills and stuff like that. But they really taught me everything on how to see the game. Like I said, I'd watch so many games with them sitting on a couch from so many different leagues all over the world. And watching players, and we would just break down the way certain players would play, different plays, like tactics, and I think I learned a lot from those two before I was able to get proper coaching, I guess, from coaches.
That's amazing, and sounds so special, because growing up in my family, my parents didn't even know what soccer was until I started playing when I was like 6 years old. I only learned about it because my cousins, who were older than me, started playing in our backyard one time when everybody was over for, Sunday Italian dinners. And that is how I learned about soccer. So hearing about it from a really young age must be such a boon to your career, I feel like. And then you moved into travel soccer, and you played on something called, and I have to look because this is intense, FUTSOC USA Enigma Elite. They sound intense, almost kind of like a special forces unit. What was that like? Well,
it felt like a special forces unit, just because the way the team was put together, compiled, right? It was a team that was down in South Florida. I grew up in Weston. I don't know how many of you guys know Weston. Weston? Oh, nice. That's what's up. But that was a team that was put together of kind of like an all-star team, of some of the players that the coach felt were the better players in the area, right? So he compiled a bunch of us from the neighboring towns and cities, and just put us together, and we would participate in different tournaments in that manner. But yeah, youth soccer, as all you guys are maybe aware of, it's interesting. I'm going through that process right now with my two kids, and whew, there's a lot in there to handle. I told myself I don't want to get involved in times when they ask if I wanted to volunteer coach or do this. I don't want no added pressure to my kids. I just want them to enjoy the game, learn it, get that creative spark on their own and the independence. But I loved it. When I grew up here in North Jersey, actually, Clifton, I don't know if anybody knows where Clifton is, Bergen County. I actually played for a team called Clifton Stallions, which was a pretty impressive team. On that team, some of you guys might know, you can boo him, I guess, if you want. Giuseppe Rossi, Danny Satella, Jonathan Barajo were some of the other guys that came from that one team when we were 7, 8, 9, 10 years old that made it to professional, play. Which is pretty impressive, right, from one club team. But that Footsock USA Enigma Elite, I feel like I see that a lot now going to tournaments with my kids, like 4 or 5 letter word names of teams, which is pretty unique. But I'm sure you guys play at a different club together. But I think at your guys' age, it's all about enjoying and finding that passion for the game, and not coaches always just being hard and on you and critical. Just enjoy it.
Great advice from this guy who's been there, done that. So after college, you opted not to enter the MLS draft. Why?
Yeah, I think we can all see how much MLS has changed over the years for the better and how much it's grown. But I will say, growing up, I always, like I said, I sat down with my parents and my grandfather watching games from all over the world. And so that was very early on. That was the drive for me to try to make it with the biggest and brightest stars and teams in the world. And then that was not MLS. That was abroad. And so I wanted to give it a shot. When I was in college, I didn't think I was going to make it pro. Even through high school, I was never really highly recruited. I still have saved emails from coaches. I wanted to go to ACC school. I know I wanted to do that. ACC is maybe still to this day considered maybe the best soccer conference in college. I got turned down for various reasons, whether I was too short, too small, not fast enough, not physically big enough. I saved all those emails, by the way. But I knew I wanted to challenge myself. And I knew I'm American. I could always come back to the States if it didn't work out. But how many times do you get the opportunity to maybe go abroad and test yourself? Actually, my sophomore, going to my junior year, I had the opportunity to go to Sporting Lisbon in Portugal, which is a big club, right? And that was, we talked a lot of back and forth with my family. But my mother wanted me to get that degree in college, so I agreed with her. I stayed at BC, got my degree, and then I knew I wanted to go abroad. I wanted to challenge myself. The summer before, I had an opportunity to go visit Charlie Davies, who was another former Boston College player. I went to visit him in the summer of 2007, I think it was, and he was playing for a team called Hammarby, which you're very familiar with in Sweden, based in Stockholm. And for those of you who haven't been to Stockholm, Sweden in the summertime, it's a beautiful country. It's beautiful.
Go.
Go.
Like hot take, best summer city in the world.
It's very nice, and I fell in love with it. I was just like, this is awesome. This is great. I wanted to, I knew that the team that was interested in myself from Sweden, that I would become a starter pretty quickly. I mean. Obviously, I'd still have to prove myself, but I really felt strongly about that possibility, and I wanted to be playing right away to be able to get that opportunity to maybe make the jump abroad to one of the better teams, better leagues. So that's how I felt about it. Nothing against MLS, but at that time, it was a little bit restrictive because I was projected to be like the number 1 or number 2 draft pick in the draft, an MLS draft, but that meant I would have to sign, a long 4 or 5 year deal. Financially, I had to consider that. Maybe it wasn't the best deal for me, but talking with other folks, it was like, okay, it might be locked up for 5 years. To transfer out of MLS at that time was a little bit tough, hard thing to do. And so I was like, let me make that jump to Sweden. I really felt strongly in my ability to prove my worth, and that was a great jump start to my career.
I definitely want to talk about Sweden. That's something that I'm really excited to dig into, actually. But first, I want to go back to something that you said, talking about the emails that said, you're not good enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. I think as a professional, we all have those emails, those phone calls that are like, this isn't good enough, you can't be on this team because of this. I certainly know that I had them. I got one from the youth national team when I was 16, and it said, you know, I don't want to recite it, but I know it in my head. And it was on my mirror for years, being motivation and fuel for me to like continue proving the work. Were those rejections fuel for you too? How did you handle that?
It was absolutely fuel. I used all that as motivation. Like I said, I still have those emails saved, believe it or not, in my AOL inbox. I definitely used that as motivation. It was the best thing I could almost get, you know, because that added fuel to my fire, you know. Mm-hmm. And so as I saw other teammates, club, you know, my West End maybe get those offers and be able to go to those different schools that I was trying to get to, I just used that as the biggest motivation for me, and it did give me, I felt like a spark. And the whole way throughout my collegiate journey, it was about proving those people wrong and proving myself right. And that's how I went about pretty much the rest of my career, yeah.
Still proving?
Still, I still do. I still got to prove it every day now, even this year. I'm the oldest guy. I hear all the old jokes in the locker room every day. But I love proving.
Flip, you know, because
it
like
doesn't.
All of
That's
a
your
sudden
competitive nature.
No, I'm saying like all of a sudden you're like the young player in the locker room, and then one day you look around and you're getting old jokes. How does that happen? You know, like I do feel like it is a privilege being able to be in a locker room for that long and be able to be at the height of the game for that long. So that's a credit to you and your career and how long you've been able to play at this elite level. And I do want to talk about your move to Sweden, but first, and I did give you the heads up about this, didn't give him the heads up about anything else in the interview, only this. I want to know what your Roman Empire is. And for everybody in the crowd and listening who doesn't know what that is, it started out as a really fun TikTok sort of moment where women were asking their partners, who were mostly men, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And the results were shocking because it was way more often than you would think. And they had very hilarious and often fascinating answers. And then it kind of morphed into, okay, well, what is your Roman Empire? What is it when your brain gets to wander freely that it goes to? So, for example, mine is zombie apocalypses.
That's random.
Yeah, it is. But, you know, when I got here, I was scoping out all of the exits and thinking about if I had to hole up because there was a zombie apocalypse that broke out at this U.S. men's national team game, where is the best spot to hole up with like all of the canned foods? And like, how can I make a quick exit? That is my Roman Empire. So Ale Bedoya, I'm wondering what yours is.
Well, I don't have that unique of an answer for you. I'm sorry to disappoint you guys. That's pretty unique. These days, you know, a lot of this on my mind is I don't know how many of you guys have heard of the sport of padel or paddle.
Oh.
No? A racket sport? Yeah? You have? Okay, there we go. Let's go. I saw a couple of you guys. But that takes up a lot in my mind these days. You know, as I think about like what's going to be that spark that I find post-playing career or something that's going to keep that competitive fire or get going. Padel is a sport that I love. I was exposed to it first in Spain. Actually, when I lived abroad, a lot of our training camps were in Spain. And in Spain, it's like the second biggest sport behind soccer, behind football actually. And that was my first exposure to it. And then my wife is from Norway, actually, and I have a Norwegian teammate on the team that are from the same city, actually, in Bergen, Norway. So when I go back to her home and we go visit family and friends there, the last 5, 6, 7 years, I've played a lot more padel, and it's just grown so much. And now it's become a business venture of mine. I'm actually a partner investor in Paddle House, which is based, we've got 6 locations in 5 different cities. And so that's my Roman Empire right now. I'm constantly thinking about it from
Love
like
it.
not just a business standpoint, but from like a competitive standpoint, where I feel like that's going to be the next thing that is going to keep that spark in me going.
This is amazing. We're both covering all the bases. Me with all of the exits, and you with top to bottom business plan. Love it. So let's go back to January 2009. It's when you make the move to Örebro in Sweden. And tell us what it's like moving to a brand new country. You're only 22 years old. What is it like immersing yourself in a new culture when you're that young?
Yeah, it was very unique. I think like I said, I enjoyed being there initially over the summertime and visiting Charlie, but I didn't get a chance to go over during the winter. So yes, I went to Boston, which is pretty cold, but the town that I first moved to is called Örebro, so it's in the northern part of Sweden, in the middle. It wasn't like a coastal town, so I was out there alone. It was dark, because it's like you only see sun. Like by the time you get to training started at 9, 10 o'clock. The sun is just coming out at that time, and by the time you finish out of the training ground at like 1:30, 2 o'clock, the sun is already down. Mm-hmm. So it's like, wow, it's kind of depressing, right? So
yeah.
as a loner at that time, it was a lot of trying to keep in touch with family and friends from back home. You kids, you guys are using FaceTime all the time to keep in touch. I was using Skype, which is non-existent anymore. They don't even have Skype anymore. So, but that was how I was getting in touch with family and friends, and some video games, playing Call of Duty. That was a game that I was exposed to back then.
Were you homesick?
I didn't really get homesick. No, okay. I think I was okay with that part. It was just it was lonely at times for sure. But what helped out a lot is the Swedish culture. As you know very well, in Sweden, they have, the use of English is very strong. Mm-hmm. So everybody speaks like really perfect English. So that was very helpful in the beginning, and they're very, very friendly folks. I love like Asian fusion type of food, and the apartment that I moved into had like, on the bottom floor had a great sushi spot. So I was like there like every day. It was terrible, but just alone, with my thoughts, but it helped me get through the days. But like I said, the Swedish people were super friendly, and the fact that they spoke English, very well, really helped early on.
Yeah, and I mean, you know this, but maybe everybody else here doesn't know that at the exact same time, there was a young American prospect embarking on a similar journey. Her name was Meghan Klingenberg. And I need to know, pratar du svenska?
Ja, jag kan prata lite svensk.
Oh, wow. I didn't expect this. Actually, this is very impressive. No. I just asked him, do you speak Swedish? And I used to be able to, but there's literally nobody outside of Sweden who speaks Swedish, so after I left, I had a hard time keeping up. But I think maybe you're...
Yeah, well, having a Norwegian wife, like so Swedish, Norway, Denmark, they all speak very similar languages, so that's helped me stay sharp. And even my team now at the Philadelphia Union, for folks that know, we have Jacob Glesnes, who's from Norway, like I just mentioned, from the same town as my wife, and Mika Ure, who's Danish from Denmark. So we've had a couple guys in here that's kept my Swedish flowing. And
I love it. I did not have that experience, so that was the extent of my Swedish. I've used it all up. But I do want to know, when I was there, I really loved the culture. I loved hanging out in Stockholm. But one of my favorite things, and maybe I had a few too many, were Swedish pastries.
Fika.
Yeah, exactly. And the ones that I was really into was like semla and kanelbulle.
Kanelbulle, yeah, which is cinnamon bun.
Yep, exactly. Did you have a favorite?
No, not really. I don't. It's interesting though. I don't have much of a sweet tooth. No? So like I love the Swedish culture has this thing where they go out for a fika. So in the middle of the day, people who are working wherever they are, they allow like 1 hour for a fika, which is like a coffee break with friends or whoever you want to catch up with, which is a very cool part of the culture, and I love doing that. But yeah, I love the kanelbulle, like a cinnamon bun that they have there, but I don't have much of a sweet tooth. Like if there's one vice I have, I don't really eat candy or like buns, but my one vice I would say is chips.
Oh, what kind?
Like any kind, I don't care. Like you put a bag of chips in front of me, and I'll inhale the bag of chips.
I love that. I love that. I'm so happy you mentioned fika, because that was literally my favorite thing about Sweden, and it was my favorite Swedish export. I just really loved how you could connect over a coffee and a sweet little treat, and it felt like so much more than a coffee break. It felt like a cultural moment that they shared together. Do you have a favorite Swedish export that you brought back with you and now you share with other people?
I was going to make a joke that my wife maybe is kind of Swedish, but I don't share her with other people. But no, I think something that I love the Scandinavian way of life in a way. They have a very high standard of living, high quality of life, very minimalistic way of living. I think we've brought that into our home. And if you walk into our home, it's very kind of Danish. It's not very Swedish, but Danish design, very minimalistic, whites and light woods and stuff like that. So I think that's what I got from moving out there. I really liked how they, embody their way of life.
And not only did you play in Sweden, you also played in Scotland. On your next stop, you went to Glasgow and you played for Rangers. Now, Rangers has a reputation for having one of the most passionate fan bases in all of world football, not to mention their intense rivalry with Celtic. What was it like playing in that kind of atmosphere week in and week out?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Glasgow Rangers, such a big club, huge fan base. They're very passionate and loyal. So when I had the opportunity to go there, I obviously had other opportunities to go to elsewhere, but I just felt that was something that I wanted to experience. And as players, before you get transfer moves, you're looking into the history and background of these clubs, and you typed in at YouTube and videos of Ibrox and the atmosphere, the Champions League nights, and all this popped up, and it was just like, wow, I want to experience that. And then the Old Firm Derby is very, very well known. It's a giant spectacle, the passion, and for those of you who may not know, maybe the Old Firm Derby, it just goes beyond football, beyond soccer. It's religion, it's politics, it's crazy. So if you ever get to experience a game like that or an atmosphere like that, check it out. It's awesome. It's worth it. So I wanted to have that. And I also knew Maurice Edu, who was another American player who played for the national team. He was already there, so I got to be able to talk to him, and he just spoke so highly of his experience there and about the club. I had heard rumblings already that Carlos Bocanegra was already also come. Yeah, Carlos Bocanegra, another U.S. national team legend, was on his way there as well. So it was like an American contingent. We were all going to be there. So it kind of felt it felt awesome, And so I wish I could have spent more time at Glasgow Rangers. To be honest with you, I really enjoyed it. I felt like when I was just starting to turn the corner in terms of getting more and more playing time and getting assimilated, the club unfortunately went into administration, which is their version of bankruptcy. And that put a dent into my time there, into everybody's time there, because all the players were pretty much forced to leave in a way. And unfortunately, I didn't get to experience more of Glasgow Rangers, but it's a great club. It's an awesome fan base.
It has so much history, especially against Celtic. As you mentioned, it's more of like a cultural type thing that you're like buying into, not just a team, religion, politics, the team as well. Did you ever feel scared or intimidated when you were in that environment? And if you did, how did you handle that so you could continue to like step up to the plate and play at the level that you need to play at?
No, I never felt scared. I think, like, as a footballer, these are the moments, those types of atmospheres that you kind of live for, right? I think when you hear the decibels in the stadiums going off, and you couldn't even talk to your teammate there because you even yelling at him, you can't hear it, right? That's what you want to strive for. Those are the nights you want to try to have. You try to embrace that, but I think I got more scared sometimes at nights, on night out in the city of Glasgow, because after a night out drinking and stuff, when people see maybe you're Rangers and Celtic fan, there could be things that blow up or whatever. I won't
Yep.
say things that happen here because it gets, like I said, there's a lot of religion and politics and stuff that get involved. But you would hear some of that stuff at nights out, and it got pretty serious. And especially with the guys that are from there, right? They feel it even more because there are Rangers players, there are Celtics players that are like, you're born into that whole culture, and it's ingrained in them. I was like, a little bit removed.
Yeah.
I think it was something where even at Rangers, I had to, I think as a Colombian, we're Catholic. I was raised Catholic, but at Rangers it's more like the Protestant side. So I couldn't cross myself anymore, like I wouldn't do that just out of like a respect for maybe some of the other fans, which is like, that's a cultural shock to me in a way, right? But that's a shift from that's how things could be, right? When you go to a club like that. But nonetheless, it's just an awesome experience. I mean, I think I had friends that went to a game at Parkhead, which is Celtic Stadium, and they're passing by like a little tunnel that they put for the away fans, for the Rangers fans, and you're like literally walking like this in, and they just hear the Celtic fans just knocking on that thing. I mean, us from South America, we know maybe how these atmospheres could be, but. It just adds to the atmosphere, and it's something that you just embrace as a player.
Yeah, the fans can get wild, but you've also mentioned that the players can get a little wild, maybe with a drink or two or many. Did you join in?
No. I had no business joining in because I didn't really truly understand everything like that.
Okay.
And when I speak, I don't sound Scottish. I can't sound
No.
Scottish. So
I mean,
I stuck out as the American.
all I'm saying is that this happened over 10 years ago, and that's basically like the Scottish equivalent of the statute of limitations running out. So if you want to spill, you can spill. That's all I'm saying. Feel free. What's the craziest thing you saw there?
The craziest thing? No, I can't divulge that. But I just it could get pretty heated.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll move on. Our producer Matt is actually from Scotland. Give us a wave. There he is. Hey, you got an applause. That's nice. But he's from Scotland, and I need to make this known to all of our Scottish friends that this is not coming from me when I say this. Matt has talked a lot about Scottish food, and the way he describes it is, quote, unhealthy, unappealing, and mostly gray in color. That was not me. That was Matt. What was your experience with the food there?
Oh, terrible.
So he was right.
I can't say I'm fond of Scottish food. They got Scottish whiskey, they can have that, but haggis and beans on toast, all this stuff. That's a UK thing.
Explain what haggis is for everybody, please.
I can't even explain. Matthew might have to truly explain, but it's like, what is it, Matt?
It's basically kind of ground up meat inside the sheep's stomach.
Okay, let me recap this for everybody.
Yeah, does that sound appealing to y'all? Does that sound appealing to you? No.
It's chopped up onions and meat inside of a goat's stomach and boiled to the point of oblivion. That's what I heard. Anyways, I try not to eat things encased in its own intestines. In all seriousness, how did you grow and develop as a player in Europe?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I grew as a player was from a tactical standpoint, and I think I really have to give a lot of credit to my time in Sweden because when you're playing in college, it might not be the best level, but it was more hey, give the ball to Bedoya and let him just do his thing, score whatever, run and blah blah blah. But in Sweden, there would be tactical video sessions that I never got in college at BC. It was just incredible. That was totally new to me in terms of how to shift, how to press, how to move, how to close down space and mark in the zone, be zonal marking and all this stuff. I never had that exposure, to be honest with you guys. I could sit here and on the couch with my father and grandfather, but they didn't have that level, and I didn't have that in college at all. But when I went to Sweden, we would have, I'm not kidding you guys, some training sessions, especially when we had double days. The double training session would just be like almost a 2-hour video session of just breaking down teams and breaking down how we played. And so, that's how I really kind of grew more into a player, just by going to Sweden. And I learned a lot.
Sounds like a tactical boot camp.
It was. But
Yeah.
it was very helpful because as a player, that's how I grew the most, really. And then
I'm
you're
sure.
just playing with professionals, right? You're at the professional game. And so, yeah, like I said, playing for a club like Rangers, you just really knew how much more maybe it meant and for a player. And, you know, you're the American and the stereotypical, this guy's a Yank, like, what's he doing here? I'm stealing somebody's job. But it was
Right.
real. Like, I'm taking somebody's job. And so you learn to play with a certain edge that you need for, you know, to have a long career.
It's nice to hear you speak so fondly of your time in Europe and with Rangers. Do you have a favorite memory from your time there?
At Rangers?
Yeah, or just in Europe in general?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about, you know, my time in France or anything, but I think I would say, you know, I played for FC Nantes in Ligue 1 in France, and I think those were the prime years of my career, I think, during that time, right? When I was there, I went to France in 2013. And, you know, I would say 2014 to 2016 was really when I was playing at my highest level, both for club and country. So it felt very good. And in France, despite all the American stereotypes, it's a country that has really everything, right? From a cultural standpoint, from an art standpoint, from a food standpoint. I lived 30 minutes from a coastal town, and so just going up and down the west coast of France and seeing all the villages and traveling, I think that's my fondest time of Europe. It's so easy to travel from place to place, country to country, and you're in a whole different type of culture, you know, eating different types of food. So I think, yes, the soccer was great, but I think for me, the traveling and the new experiences that I never thought I would have is what football really gave to me.
Soccer really does give in so many different ways, whether it's like how you meet your partner or your friends or get to travel, try new foods. It's really wonderful to experience that because of this game. And I'm looking forward to asking you more about your career, men's national team, and also your time in Philly. But first, we're going to play my favorite game. And it's time for red card or play on. If you're new here, it's a very simple game. I'm going to give Ale and all of you a scenario, an idea, possibly an object, and you're either going to give it a red card and send it off forever, or play on because you're totally okay with it. A classic example that we've used before on the show is pineapple on pizza. We already have a red card. So audience, feel free to join in. This is your chance to be a part of the show. Ale, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
here
give
we
it a
go.
shot.
Okay, first one. Watching movies or shows with subtitles on. Oh, just one. Oh, we got a few. Okay. Ale, what do you think?
Yeah, like I said, my wife is Norwegian, and sometimes I'll be watching shows and movies with her in her language. I need subtitles, so I can't watch it without subtitles.
I am fully with you. Even if we're watching in English, I like having it on so I don't have to put this is going to age me, but so I don't have to put the TV so loud so I can understand what everybody's saying. I can just read it. So that is fully a play on.
That is true
for me.
too. I have two kids, 10 and 8-year-olds,
Yeah.
so sometimes it gets really loud in the house, or they won't leave your side, right?
Yeah.
And they're playing or FaceTime with friends, so we just have to have it with subtitles because we can't hear.
That's what I'm saying. I'm fully
I'm
on the
okay with
subtitle
subtitles.
game. Okay, this is for our Philly crowd here. Let's play to the crowd. Cheesesteaks, completely overrated. I'm just asking the questions here. I mean, I'm going to give it a red card. I love a cheesesteak. I'm not going to lie. So, what did you say?
No, yeah, I don't know if the red card was, I raised it appropriately because I actually do believe that cheesesteaks are overrated, unfortunately.
Feel free
for
to
my
red
Philly
card
crowd.
that if you need to.
Yeah. Red card me, yeah. You can red card me all you want, yeah. I don't know. I don't get it. You know,
No?
I've had my fair share. I've gone to all the places, the Alessandro's, gyms,
Yeah.
you know, the touristy spots, Gino's and Pat's. But
Yeah.
Angelo's is apparently the best one, right? Is that true? I don't know for my Philly fans, but.
I don't know. I don't eat meat anymore, but when I did, I will say I was a huge fan. Although this might be sacrilege in Philly, I did like it with like mushrooms on there and a little bit of mayo.
Really?
So I did a little swerve.
Swerve.
Just a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna eat meat. I just want a nice steak.
All right, just give him a steak, not slice. Okay, last one. This one is also a little Philly coded, I think. Booing your own team is just a sign of love. Listen, I'm just sitting up here.
So if you agree, no red card, right?
If you agree, I think that's a no red card, yeah.
If you agree.
So it's a play on for you?
Yeah, it's okay. You know,
All right,
the
I
fans
love
there, they pay for a product, and if they're not happy with it, they get to boo, right?
Have you been booed
I've
as
been
a
booed.
Philly
I mean,
Union?
sometimes I've enjoyed it, and
Wow.
it's what's propelled us on. You know, I can remember our playoff game against Red Bull. We were down, I think, 3-1 at halftime, maybe, or 2-1. I don't know, 2-0. I forget. And they were booing us, and we were having to walk back through that tunnel through the river end with the fans giving you a hard time. Like
That's
that's so
crushing.
Philly, but like. We needed it. Like
Yeah.
we needed to hear that, and it got us going. And sometimes that's what players need on the field is to get booed for them to react.
I mean, that would be a crushing blow. I have not actually been booed by my own fans.
No.
No, that would have been a new low for me in my career. But
Yeah.
no, that's never happened.
That's never happened. No. But I did. Are some Union fans here or no? Yeah. Okay. Do you remember our last game against Chicago? Their goalie had maybe a little bit of a howler. I was on the bench, you know, and every time after the first 2 goals, the fans were jeering and booing for him. I felt bad for him on the bench. But, you know, hey, maybe you shouldn't concede in that way. But yeah, that part sucks. It sucks. It does suck sometimes. But I actually did feel bad for him there. Because,
Yeah.
you know, they're not even booing the team. They're only booing one player, specific guy.
That's
pretty bad.
Sports can
Yeah.
be.
Can be
Sports
brutal.
can be tough. Yeah,
Yeah, they
they're
can be
brutal
tough.
sometimes. All right, that's it for Red Card or Play On. Thank you so much for playing. Keep those. I didn't say this, even though it will be recorded, but feel free to use them later in the match. Okay, so let's go here. You get called up to the U.S. men's national team in 2009. And in 2010, you were on the provisional roster for the World Cup and got cut. How did Bob Bradley and team break that news to you? And then how did you recover from being so close to a dream and then having to miss out?
Yeah, no, that was definitely tough. But if I'm going to be honest, I wasn't expecting to go that year in 2010 to the World Cup. You know, I think it was at that point, I had only been a professional for a year. And, you know, I was able to break into my club team there in Sweden fairly quickly. But, you know, I was at that time, I was almost just like a happy guy to just be part of the first team and have the chance to go to a World Cup. And, you know, being part of that training camp, it was actually in Princeton. It was held in Princeton. Was an awesome experience. You know, you're getting to play with the guys that I'm used to watching on TV, you know, Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, all these guys, Tim Howard. And it was almost like surreal, right? But I think how the news got broke, we weren't expecting it because the cuts were supposed to be made the following week. But we had a game out in Hartford, I believe it was a friendly, and that night I was just hanging in my hotel room, and the room phone rang, and it was an assistant coach saying, "Hey, do you have time? Let's come downstairs and meet. Let's have a meet real quick down in the lobby area, in one of the meeting rooms." And that's how it got broke down. He just went down there. I was not expecting anything. I had no idea what it was about.
Right.
And it was just like, "Oh, sorry, but you know, we're gonna have you be an alternate," which was an alternate was like in case somebody gets injured in that position that I would be called up, but would no longer, you know, be part of the official World Cup team.
Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of U.S. soccer, driving a positive impact in the game and in communities all across the country, helping turn possibilities into achievements and lifting fans, stadiums, and cities to their feet. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America, official bank of U.S. soccer. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
But then you get your chance in 2014 in Brazil. And it's not just any World Cup host. Brazil is the country with the most World Cup titles, the home of Yoga Bonito, the place that gave the world the beautiful game. What was it like playing in Brazil, basically the heart of football's homeland, and did you have a favorite memory from that tournament?
Yeah, no, it was just incredible. You know, look, that's to play in a World Cup is the pinnacle of a professional soccer player's career. So really, it was truly amazing. You know, I think obviously when I'm done playing, you'll be able to look back even more and fondly maybe of those times, because you kind of take it for granted while you're still playing. Everything's happening so fast. But truly, it was remarkable. Our base camp was in Sao Paulo, which is an awesome city, fantastic,
Huge, by the way.
city,
So
huge.
big.
The traffic is insane, by the way. So even when we had escort service, it would still take almost 2 hours to get from training to the hotel. But it was just awesome, like you said, because you're in Brazil, you know how passionate and how amazing the Brazilian fans really are, and then having fans from all over the world ascend there, and it's just a big party. Everybody knows Brazil, the Carnival. It was like that vibe, everybody's partying. Our hotel lobby was insane. It had a club and everything on there. So you're coming back, and thankfully we were way up high on the higher floors, but you could still overhear some of the music and sounds and everything from fans. And the vuvuzelas from South Africa, were brought over, and they were loud. But really, it was an amazing experience, and I truly didn't really get how big the World Cup really was until the first game against Ghana kickoff.
Where were you? What stadium were you in?
Oh my gosh, I
Do you
forgot
remember?
now. No, I don't remember. But I remember the one in Manaus though against Portugal. Yeah, that was Manaus against Portugal. That was a crazy game that we should have won. We ended up tying 2-2, but that was wild because you're in the middle of Amazon. You're literally in the middle of Amazon.
It's
And
nuts.
so I remember like the walls were white, the tunnels where we walk out were white, but they were actually black because of the amount of mosquitoes and moths and
my
flies and
gosh.
everything that was against. So you could not see white. It was just black because of all that. It was just incredible. But what I was saying before the Ghana game, the tunnel, like normally you have a tunnel here and you can see, and like right here we have like 2 or 3 cameras here. So typically that's how it is, like in an MLS game or whatever. But the World Cup, I could not see the field because of the number of cameras and journalists and media that was there. And then you're like, it really hits you like, wow, this is how global, how massive the World Cup really is. And as you're walking out through there, and like that's when it really hit me. And as soccer players, if you don't get butterflies, while you're coming out, I mean, are you really feeling the game, right? And so
I'm
you
getting
feel the
chills
shivers
right now.
coming out,
Yeah.
and just hearing the anthem playing the World Cup is just fantastic. And that game against Ghana could not have kicked off any better because we scored. So for those who remember, early, Clint Dempsey scored a great goal. And I always tell them, I was like, I wish you would have mishit it a little bit, because if you watch the replay, I'm on the back post. Like I would have got the little tap in. I was right there, to tap it in. So that would have been
Legend.
amazing. But no, it was just a special experience. And to have, like I said, my father and grandfather were both able to go as well to witness it,
So cool.
having family and friends backing you there. But yeah, it was awesome.
It is a really unique country for football. We played there in 2016 in the Olympics, and we actually were in Manaus as well.
Mm-hmm.
And funny story, we had our own hotel, and there was like a wing that was just for us. And so I think you could stay with a roommate or you could stay by yourself, but Becky Sauerbrunn was always my roommate, and we had security and nobody could get in our wing, or so we thought. And as you know, it's very hot there. So our boots, after every training session, were just completely swamped, and we did not want those in the room. So we put them outside of our door thinking, we have security, this is our own wing. And when we woke up, every single person's pair of boots were stolen, completely gone in the middle of Olympic play. So we had to rush ship them from the United States, from Nike. They got stolen in customs. So we actually had then to rush ship them again and hope that they got through customs. And this was all in the middle of an Olympic tournament. It was wild. It was so wild. So you come back to the U.S. in 2016, signing with the union. Tell us, how has soccer changed in this country during your time away?
Yeah, look, it's obviously gone so much better, leaps and bounds from when I first left. But I'll add that my son was born in France in 2015, and when he was born, I felt like there was an opportunity to maybe come back home, play in front of family and friends, and get some help, support there, and stuff like that. And so I had the ability to come back. At that time, for U.S. men's national team players coming back, you had to go through an allocation order. For those of you who are MLS geeks or nerds maybe, but knew that. They don't really do that anymore. But so I was meant to go to Columbus was the number one. Not Columbus, Chicago was the number one. So I thought I was coming back to Chicago. And I actually had an agreement signed with Chicago to go to Chicago.
Wow.
We were looking at apartments, everything. And because of an administrative error, I guess they didn't intend to have signed for a 5-year deal. It was supposed to be a 4+1. So, as a player, I'm like, no, I signed a 5-year deal. Like, that's what I agreed to. So then Chicago was a little bit in disarray, and Columbus was the next on that list. And I had already been kind of talking with Philly a little bit as well. They had shown interest, and I kind of wanted to go more to Philly to be more on the East Coast because I grew up in North Jersey. It was closer to family and friends. So I was like, that's, Philly, like I'm all for it. And so Philly ended up having to pay, I think, up to, some allocation money to Columbus and Chicago, and I was able to fall down to Philly. So that was kind of how I came here. But I was on the way to Paris to get my medical and set to go to Chicago. Like, we had been looking already at apartments and everything, but eventually I came to Philly. But I've loved it. I love Philly. I've really embraced Philly as my home now.
The people's captain.
Well, I don't know about that. I'll let them decide that. But I think, I love it. We live in the city center. We still live there, same house that I moved into when I first came in August 2016. I love everything about the city. And MLS as a league has grown tremendously. I can think about the first team that I was part of the Union team. I think when you look at how our team has been successful these last 5, 6, 7 years. When I first got here, no disrespect to some of the guys here, but I was, there were guys that couldn't kick a diagonal ball with laces, and that just spoke to maybe the salary cap system, but just evidence of how much the league has grown, and the ability to be able to sign South American players, guys from Paraguay, and see you guys from Paraguay. Miguel Almiron was a fantastic addition to our league, but those types of players that the MLS has been able to go to South America, which I think that trend started in about that time frame, 16, 17, 15, and they've really helped drive the league forward, the young South American talent, but also the American talent. All the MLS teams, a lot of them have now got their academies. You've seen the level of talent that has come through these academies. Obviously, Union being one of the best ones in the league and in this country, and it's just only going to get better and better.
We'll wrap it up with this. In a conversation on our show previously, you mentioned that chances are few and far between to chase down trophies. You don't get very many chances as a professional athlete to chase down a trophy. At this stage in your career, what does it mean to you to chase down this trophy with the Philly Union, and how have you kept the hunger and the joy alive for so long?
Yeah, I think, it's the chase for trophies, right? I think that's why you play the game in a way, is to be able to, it might make me seem maybe egocentric maybe to think about it, but to think of legacy in a way. But I think oftentimes, before I came to Philly, talking with, at that time was Ernie Stewart, Chris Albright, and the ownership group, like the Union was clearly wasn't what it was here, but they spoke of me being like turning the page for them in terms of the level of ambition that the club wanted to have, to be a more reputable, respectable club, and winning, And so I took that, and I was like, I want this challenge. Like, I think I can help you do that. And so that's my competitive spirit. Like, that's why I'm chasing a trophy, because I know how much getting that MLS Cup would do, not just for me, but I think for the club and the fans and what it would mean for everybody associated with the club.
Thank you, Ale. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, audience. Philly, you have been incredible. If you haven't already, follow us anywhere you get your podcasts and watch us on YouTube. And seriously, get your phones out. Follow us right now. Who are you to deny, Captain Ale Bedoya? One more round of applause.
Thank you, Clint. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for coming. Yeah.
Check engine, ABS, or maintenance light on? And O'Reilly Auto Parts is right around the corner. O'Reilly Auto Parts can help take the guesswork out of your vehicle's check engine, ABS, or maintenance light with O'Reilly Veriscan, a free service that only takes a couple of minutes to complete. You'll receive a free, easy-to-read report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans that have been verified by ASE certified master technicians. O'Reilly Veriscan can identify the most likely problem with just one scan. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts can then recommend the parts and tools that you need to do the repair right the first time. And if you're not comfortable doing the repair yourself, they can recommend a local shop for you. Don't ignore check engine, ABS, or maintenance light. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today, a free service exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Well, that was awesome from you two, Kling and Ale Bedoya, talking in Philadelphia. So, Kling, you came up with all the questions. You had the whole conversation, but I know how it is. You do an interview and you walk away and you're like, I should ask this, or I wish I'd asked this, or it sparked the conversation, sparked something else. So, lucky for you, we get Ale on every week. Was there any question that you missed? Do you want to ask the pros something?
In fact, I do have a question for Ale. And the only reason we didn't get to it is because we were actually running a little bit close to time. And I don't know why this was a thing, but they actually had to usher everybody out of the stadium so that they could scan their tickets to actually get into the game. So while they were already in the stadium, they had to leave. So we had to wrap it up. But my question would have been, Ale, I like to ask this of all of the players that I get to sit down with. Typically, the people that we talk to have been playing for a really long time, 15, 20 years pro. And there are always some really hard moments as you progress through your career, and sometimes it's just not fun. But the whole reason we started was because we loved playing when we were kids. It was just a blast. So my question to you, if I got to ask, and here it goes, is how do you keep the joy alive after so many years of playing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think after playing so many years now, just that competitive spirit has not wavered. I mean, I still got that spark in me. I think the locker room is something that I think every athlete will always go back to. Just the banter that happens within the locker room walls is just amazing in itself and makes you want to report to work on a daily basis. So I've been lucky to share some great locker rooms where, you know, even if you have a hard time with playing time, it's still a great place to report to and be involved with. Here in Philly now, I get reminded every day I'm the old guy, the grandpa on the team, with like obviously a 15, 16-year-old and Kevin Sullivan in the locker room. But those young kids, they keep me sharp. You know, I try to keep up with the times. I got 2 young kids myself, and Kevin speaks closer to their language actually, and so I'm trying to learn their lingo and how they speak. But I think it's just a competitive nature. That's what it comes down to. I still really enjoy going out on the field between the white lines and getting stuck in. There's nothing like getting a nice tackle on someone, and I do actually like assisting more than scoring goals. So whenever you can hit that sweet spot, the ball, and put it in the right place, right touch, it's incredible feeling. And I've kind of embraced this new role, right? It's more of maybe like a mentorship role, if you will. So I think I really enjoy that part of the game too, kind of being a player, role model, coach type out there, and setting ourselves up to be successful this season.
There you go, Kling. You had your opportunity, and now everyone else gets theirs as well, because we're going to finish with our favorite segment of every show. It is Ask the Pros, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This is where you can ask questions to myself, or more importantly, to Kling or Ale Bedoya. We'll get back to you and answer it on the show. All right, Kling, it's your turn now. Tara from Nashville says, you've been praised for your leadership and team chemistry. What strategies did you use to build trust and camaraderie within the U.S. women's national team during your tenure?
One of my favorite authors is Brené Brown, and I read her book a few years ago, and in it she talks about trust and how trust is built. And she talks about how trust is like marbles in a jar, and every time that you remember somebody's grandma's name, or check in about how their mom is doing, or ask them for coffee and connect over a coffee, you get to put a marble in the jar. And so you keep filling it up with marbles, and you keep filling it up with marbles, and then, once you reach a place in your relationship where you're best friends, or you're in a relationship and the marble's full, then that feels like a really safe relationship where you can open up, discuss hard topics, all these different things. Obviously, the marble jar is a lot easier to crack and have all of the marbles fall out, then you have to start over again. But I love that analogy because it's so good when you're thinking about how to connect with players in the locker room, how to gain their trust and make them feel safe enough to come to you whenever they have issues with the front office or with coaching staff or something outside of that is affecting their play. So that was what I always tried to come with, is making sure that I'm filling up the jar, so eventually we can have a relationship where we're able to be there for each other and allow each other to feel safe, because when you're feeling that way, you're going to play your best.
This is the best segment. That's an awesome answer, and I think that's something everyone could use in life. And I feel like now I'm thinking back, not that it's a negative way in any way, and watching how you do it. About me and Ale and our producer, Matt, and you ask questions and whatever. So that was really, really good. So thank you to Tara in Nashville. How's Nashville going, Tara? Tell me about it next time I see you. See, that was a marble right there because I remember where she's from. So I'm taking credit for that one. And that was an awesome answer. So thank you, Kling. For Ale, for you, we've got Will in New York, who I'm sure will be rooting for you in the MLS Cup playoffs coming up. How much of the game at the highest level is mental, and how did you train your mind to stay sharp under pressure?
Yeah, the mental aspect of the game is crucial. I think it's vital because at the professional level, right, most players are technically and physically well built out, pretty equal. So the mental part of it is really like 70 to 80% of the game, really, the difference makers at the end of the day. For me, I try to stay sharp. I do a lot of visualization. So before every game, whenever I arrive to the stadium, I always go out and check the field, right? A lot of guys do this. You see this in the pre-games, the pre-game cameras capturing guys on the field. What I do is I try to go through different spots and visualize certain in-game scenarios, right? I'm trying to pre-play the game, if you will, in terms of putting myself in different spots on the field, visualizing how I'm going to get the ball in this scenario, what I'm going to do in this scenario, scanning, just visualizing a certain plays that I think might unfold during a game. And hopefully I can visualize me making that perfect pass or being in this specific spot in certain times. So I think that's really helped me remain kind of calm and, play simply. Speaking of play simply, I think a lot of things that I do too is try to put certain positive thoughts in my mind at all times throughout the game. And playing simply is a phrase that I go back to all the time. Just play simple. Next action, right? And just being in the moment, like winning the moment, whether it's a set piece, whether it's a certain moment in the game. A lot of positive self-talk has been really good for me. And then I think this is something that really the last 5 years I've really worked on a lot is a lot of breath work. Taking deep breaths, whether that's outside the field or in the moment of play. just kind of taking really, really deep breaths, focusing on how I'm breathing. And I think that's allowed me like to remain emotionally more in control. But yeah, the mental part of the game is crucial, right? Because that decides really a lot of moments, you know, if you lose yourself. We've seen people pick up stupid red cards in certain scenarios. And I think that emotional control is very important. As well as that ability to push yourself, to become resilient, right? To, you know, 90th minute, 90+4 minute, can you make that extra sprint, extra run? And I think that's a lot of comes from, you know, building that self-talk and determination. To beat your man, beat the opponent, beat the team, yeah.
Well, we're going to keep the positive talk up. We will have another show coming up next week where Ale Bedoya will be preparing for an MLS Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe Kling, we have to go back down to Subaru Park to watch it all play out. We, of course, love our time that we get to spend in Pennsylvania. Thank you to all of you who asked the pros. Thank you to Will and Tara there. And if you want the opportunity to do the same, you could drop our partners at Westwood One a DM on Instagram at Westwood One Sports. And, of course, don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Never miss an episode, and we'll be back again next week.